Between domestic leagues and cups, continental club competitions, international tournaments, international qualifiers, newfangled tournaments, and of course the ever-increasing number of random friendlies, simply put, there are too many damn soccer games.
You said it, the rent is too damn high.
This is not a new concern, by the way. It's been a problem for at least the past 15 seasons, if not longer. Saying the soccer calendar is congested at this point in time is like saying David Guetta was overplayed in European discotheques circa 2009. It's just a vast understatement. There are currently way too many matches, and back in the day, David Guetta was severely overexposed. I'll never forget being out on Santalo in Barcelona one night and hearing, I kid you not, 4 different David Guetta songs or remixes all playing at the same time within earshot of me. Utterly ridiculous. Unlike the DJ, however, it looks like the sports fixture list may finally be facing a day of reckoning. And as for that topic, well, I guess you could say, I'm trying to find the words to describe this girl without being disrespectful. Suffice to say, Akon never did quite find those respectful words. As for soccer though, well, I was taken aback when the CEO of the Professional Footballers Association mentioned how players could soon go on strike over the congested fixture list. In fact, here's what he had to say on the topic. Some of them said, I'm not having it. We might as well go on strike. Some said, what's the point? Yes, I'm a millionaire, but I don't even have time to spend the money. That last part is an incredible revelation for a sport that has been driven feverishly by greed for decades now. Players have always griped about fixture congestion, but they would always begrudgingly accept it because it meant more money for them. Now, maybe this is just a negotiating tactic on their end, a way for them to try and get a bigger slice of the pie. However, I don't think that is the case, and I sincerely hope it isn't the case because there is something here that really needs to be stressed. Players are really starting to see the toll all these extra games are taking. It's shortening their careers and harming their earning potential. A few extra dollars in the present does not make up for the loss of income a lot of players are now seeing in their age 30, 31, 32 and on up seasons, where they're just not getting these large contracts they had been getting in the 2000s and maybe even early on into the 2010s. Sure, some footballers have been able to hang around the higher levels of the sport as they advanced in age, but there are far fewer examples of that today than, say, even 10 years ago. Either you're taking less pay at lesser clubs or even dropping down the pyramid in your domestic league, or you're hoping an overseas league with cash to spend comes calling with a fat contract. By the way, this is not hyperbole. This is not some observation. There is actually data to prove this. Players have gone from playing 3,000 or so minutes in a season to being closer towards 5,000 or even 6,000 minutes in some cases. These days, you are now literally cramming 2 seasons into one. Unsurprisingly, the careers and the peaks of soccer players are now far less than what they had been in the past. As former head of sports science at Newcastle United, Callum Walsh explained in an interview with ESPN SoccerNet, the wear and tear on players is turning what had been 10 to 12 year careers at the highest level to something along the lines of 6 years or sometimes even less. There are plenty of examples of this now unfolding before our very eyes. Of course, Eden Hazard retired at the age of 32, Jack Wilshere retired at the age of 30, Julian Draxler is 30 and playing in Qatar, Samuel Umtiti mileage has seen him more or less age out of the sport. The list here though goes on and on. These are just a few examples of what is a growing number. The additional 3 or 4 million euros, pounds, dollars, it doesn't really matter the currency you use, but that extra money in the short term over the shorter peak of a player's career doesn't make up for the 10 to 20 million lost in salary between the ages of 29 and 35 when contracts are no longer forthcoming. It is stupid for the players to keep accepting this status quo. And speaking of stupid, that brings us to the revamped Club World Cup set for 2025. Players have chosen this event to draw the line in the sand when it comes to soccer's oversaturated calendar, and it makes a lot of sense. This tournament, this competition exists for one reason and one reason only: to make FIFA money. Players have never cared about the Club World Cup and they never will. Maybe a few clubs will enjoy their time there, but the big sides from Europe and South America are simply around to cash a check. Fans, meanwhile, are going to be gouged to watch games that may be slightly more competitive than your average preseason friendly, but will ultimately be forgotten about once the real season begins. The timing of the Club World Cup here is what has really upset players. Running from June to July, it basically clogs up the last remaining free period on the soccer calendar. It's essentially the only time of the year, and sometimes even the only time in 2 or 3 years, these players have to take a step back from soccer, enjoy life. So not only is that being ripped away from them, but they're being forced to play in these games while risking the longevity of their career and future earnings. Yeah, maybe there's a reason the players are a bit peeved here. So the majority of talk surrounding the unwanted and unnecessary 2025 Club World Cup has centered around a potential boycott or strike of the event. It remains to be seen just how serious this is. I mean, it's easy to say strike, talk about a strike or a boycott when something is more than a year away. Now, it must be pointed out, this is not the only action being taken by players against FIFA. The PFA, FIFA Pro, the Global Players Union, and the World Leagues Association are jointly exploring legal actions against FIFA over the Club World Cup, Intercontinental Cup, and basically all the other cash grabs the world's governing body has recently introduced. I seriously hope the end goal here is to reduce the number of games and not simply accept a payment, a settlement from FIFA that allows these extra contests to proceed. Everything we know about soccer is screaming fewer games. Players have said less games. Coaches have said less games. The health advisors, the sports scientists are saying less games. Even fans are getting burned out by what has become a 12-month soccer calendar. Well, apart from glory hunters in overseas countries who will simply root for whoever is winning, and if that is your target audience, why even bother? One day I'll share some stories about my time living in developing countries where that is extremely pervasive, but for now you're just going to have to take my word for it. That is very much a very real thing. I think by and large what most out there want from a soccer calendar are domestic leagues and cups, continental club competitions, the World Cup every 4 years, continental international competitions, and qualifiers for both. If clubs or international sides wish to play the odd overseas friendly here and there, so be it, as long as it's done in moderation. But that's really it. That's all fans want from the soccer calendar. For leagues and governing bodies to say they want to make more money and then reverse engineer tournaments to achieve that is just the pits. But don't take my word for it. I'm sure all of those club players are going to be trying their hearts out in a competition with no real stakes directly after their club season, their real club season, has ended. Maybe you're just going to get a bunch of tepid performances in awful summer weather in the United States. What do I know? Here's what I don't get. The business side of this doesn't make much sense as far as what FIFA is doing. Instead of creating more products and devaluing the brand, why not simply charge more for what you already have in hand? Or you can find new and exciting ways to collect your alleged kickbacks that don't involve overusing players and tiring out fans. Just because bribery is a year-round sport doesn't mean soccer needs to be one too. With soccer facing a day of reckoning for its congested calendar, let's hope it ends with fewer fixtures being played. That being said, I am not super hopeful here. Let's not forget, FIFA is an organization that saw Portugal beat North Korea 7-0 in 2010, and Germany thrashed Saudi Arabia 8-0 in 2002, and said to itself, the World Cup needs to expand so we can have more games like this. Akon, do you have any advice here for them? They say she needs to slow down. Thank you for watching this video. If you'd like to learn about the underdog champion of Europe, that was extremely hated, video lower right hand corner of your screen. And to find out what personally for me is one of my favorite moments in US soccer history, although a completely irrelevant one, video upper right hand corner. Until next time, I'm Cheyenne Hollis, this is The Touchback, and as always, hashtag take it out to the 25.